This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Nordo in for PA on a Friday. Thanks again to Alec Lewis, and big thanks now to John Bonus at Twins Geek via X. Whether it's Twins Daily, it's the family of zone coverage related sites. I think he's even got a Brewers bit going. Is that accurate, John?
We've got a Brewers bit. We've got
Brewers
a Cubs
Fanatic
bit. We've got Brewer Fanatic. We've got Northside Baseball. We've got Talk Sox. We've got Padres Mission. We've got Jays Center. Got Fish on First. That's the Marlins one.
Do you have a link tree somewhere?
I do not. Actually, I probably should.
You have a business card that's 8 by 11?
I should just go to johnbonus.com and go. You can go to all the different stuff they have. I do own johnbonus.com. I don't know why. Maybe I don't own it. I don't know. We'll see. I can't remember what I own in terms of URLs right now.
I wonder if that's it. Maybe people should just go buy their own name domains. Don't you think? Just in case. You never know.
I mean, you know my email address, john@bonus.com. I put it out there for a long time. So, yeah, I'm all about that.
I was going to ease my way into this Twins-related conversation. Twins back from the break, and Chris Paddock on the mound for our favorite 9, and they are at Coors Field tonight. But it was funny in the studio. You just can't escape it, John, with this team, and you've been doing this for a long time with this team. But in the side studio, you were hanging out and chatting with Brett, and despite being, a fan of just the ugly green and gold, the nasty neighbors to the east. But you know, he is a big Braves fan. Now, the Braves they got over the hump. I forget what year. What year did they win the series? 21. That's right. And it was
Eddie Rosario,
Freddie Freeman in at the All-Star game, All-Star festivities down in Atlanta. But he was lamenting, I got Acuna, I got Olsen, I got Ozuna. You look at the names and you just read things on a list and you're like, whew, that ain't a bad lineup, right? And the Braves are struggling. Yeah. And then again, because you can't escape this, John, in some ways you're immediate, as we like to do, is we want to try and relate. We want to empathize. And our version of empathizing in Minnesota with something like that is
ditto.
Yeah. Well, I got Correa.
Right.
I got Wallner. Oh, I got this phenom Royce Lewis, who has turned a slump into kind of just a lifestyle choice. Yeah. It seems now with this kind of lingering issue he has specifically at the plate. But that's kind of just it. Yeah, feel your pain. We got this list. We got these names, man. But here we are on the absolute grind.
Yeah, Twins are 10th out of 15th in the American League in terms of like runs per game. That's where they're at. And, that's below average. And as such.
Remember the Bombas?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that was fun.
Exactly right. They were not anticipating being below average. I don't think they were expected to be too much above average, but they're expecting to be better than this. And we just had a story on Twins Daily, a few days ago by Gregory Masterson, who basically compared sort of the preseason. Why did we think this offense was going to be better was sort of the question. And a lot of that is based on sort of preseason projections, seeing career arcs of various players, where they're going to be. And there are actually 4 that are falling short. I won't talk about Christian Vasquez because he's a backup catcher essentially at this point. Right?
I understand.
Right. But when the 3 biggest disappointments in terms of projections are 3 of the 4 guys you were counting on for offense, well, yeah, your offense is going to be struggling. Yeah. And those 3 are Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and to a somewhat lesser extent, but Matt Wallner. Matt Wallner was great in April. He's been hitting 175, I think, since he came back from his injury, something like that. And he's still showing the power. I mean, similar to, say, the year that Joey Gallo was here with the Twins. He was about a 175 hitter who still hit for enough power to be somewhat valuable, right? But Correa is hitting for, not a terrible average, but very little power. Royce Lewis has just not hit for either side of those things. And as a result, you've got an offense that can't quite figure things out. And also, you don't have an easy fix. Because are you going to give up on Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Matt Wallner?
Probably not.
No. And so then you start, where are we going to change things around? and what is going to be on the trade market if you are buying, which, by the way, we'll probably get back to that. I'm not sure that they're buying. I'm not sure they're selling. I'm not sure they're doing anything.
I honestly, I would favor them not making any significant move.
Well, I mean, that is...
And I'm going more lazy history on it, just kind of how we've seen them operate.
Yes,
so,
right. I mean, last 2 years, they really haven't done much of anything. They've traded for a couple of low-octane relievers. Right?
Yeah.
And now, 3 years ago, they went all in. They got Jorge Lopez. They got Tyler Mahle. They got some of the premier players on the trade market. Totally backfired. Could not have gone worse.
I forgot about Jorge.
Yeah. I mean, but that was the one time in my lifetime I've really seen that one, and maybe like 2002 when Terry Ryan was trying to pull off trades to try and make the team relevant again. Or 2001, I think, is what I'm thinking of. And they also, by the way, fell apart that year. If I had, we just recorded a Gleeman and the Geek, which is going to be published at noon today. You can check it out on the podcast. It's free, gleemanandgeek.com. You just type it in someplace. It'll come to it. Where we talked about where our attitude was on them buying and selling now versus like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
2 weeks ago, they were in the middle of like a month-long slump.
Yep. Where
I think they'd played 11 series, won one of them, and that was versus the Athletics. Split one of them and had lost 9 of the 11 series. June was a brutal month.
But then you win 6 and 9 into the break.
They went 6 and 9 out of the break, and now they're only 2 games under 500, and they're kind of back in this thing. So, 2 weeks ago, we were kind of like, it feels like they're going to sell. They were trending downward. And now, do they do what they have done the last 2 years, which is kind of stand pat? I think part of that is to be expected because of ownership payroll limitations. I just don't think they can pick up salary. Or, another option would be, and I wouldn't be shocked if they're trying to pursue this, is you try to improve by giving up something that is of value, but you have a lot of, and getting something that is of value that you don't have a lot of. In particular, I wouldn't be shocked if they're exploring, like, we need a good hitter. We need to add some hitting. We need to add some offense to this lineup, and we've got some extra arms in that bullpen.
Yeah.
And, maybe we think we can get by without Duran and have Griffin Jacks be closer, or without Griffin Jacks and have Brock Stewart step into his role, or Louis Varland, who's been an absolute revelation as a reliever. Somebody that I think
that would be significant if they did that.
Right.
That would be a significant move.
That would be a significant move. And then what do you get on it? And the problem with that is that's harder to find out. Line up trade partners. It's how you've got to find another competing team that's like, we really need. We've got offense to spare,
right?
Which
you need the inverse of,
right.
of the Twins.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's hard to find, which is why most trade deadline deals in the past and even now are, we'll trade prospects and we'll get something of value. We'll get a 2-month rental, and if the Twins decide to do that, or do the opposite of that, which is they've got 6 2-month rentals, we can talk about those if they decide to sell. But if they want to stay in this thing, I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking at some sort of deal where rather than trade prospects for, well, maybe trade prospects for a piece, but they do tend to value their prospects. If they instead go like, we've got enough bullpen help, maybe we'll try to get some offense.
The most obvious part of a team losing games, and right now they're on the outside looking in.
Sure.
Is you can first look to the season that Buxton's having and go down that road. I don't know why I look at things this way, specifically with this team, but I think about another guy that you mentioned while we were chatting in there during the break. Is like, I think about like, wow, Willie Castro and his year and change here, how valuable he's been at times. Yep. Wow, I look at Clemens and Bader specifically as a couple of guys that a rube like me not really caring about, not paying attention to. I just want Royce to hit bombs again.
Right.
And I want Correa to be, kind of that maybe league leading staple in a couple of categories and drive this offense. Neither have happened there. But it kind of, obviously the Buxton season gets lost. But I think about what their vision was in putting this thing together. Well, that stuff, the big timers has fallen. Wallner, you mentioned, is part of that. But you look at the Castros and the Baders and the Clemens, and you can kind of say that I get what Falvey and whatever the limitations are put upon him by management and ownership. I kind of get what Falvey was doing. Like, this is a thing that could really work at a high level in the American League and in more particular our division if we just got more from those cornerstones, as you put it.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that I think people want to criticize the front office because they're disappointed in how this team went, and I think that's fair to sort of, as an overall view, try to decide whether or not they made some mistakes and sort of trusting the core players that they did. But if you take a look at their offseason moves, well, Harrison Bader's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they acquired basically 3 free agents over the Harrison Bader, who's been fantastic, Danny Coulomb, who's been fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And Ty France, who, while not fantastic, has the second most RBI on the team. So,
well, and specifically with runners in scoring position,
exactly.
I don't followed it lately, but he's been, a godsend in that regard.
Yeah, I don't think that he's necessarily, I don't trust him necessarily for the next 2.5 months, but you can't argue that he has provided some benefit in terms of, especially early on in the season, in sort of providing some runs and providing some firepower. So, the little moves that they have made have mostly worked out, which again makes it so frustrating that sort of the big things that they thought they had in place just haven't really panned out. And, to a large extent, I think whether or not they go for it at the trade deadline, and by go for it, I mean don't sell at the trade deadline versus, decide to bail, is going to be dependent on, what they know behind the scenes about why these guys are struggling. Is Correa going to bounce back? Should we expect him? They think everything's fine. It's just a matter of time before he gets back on track. Is it, oh no, he's done. Like, the next 3 years could be a problem with Carlos Correa, or he's just going to be, we have to reset our expectations. So he's a really good defensive shortstop, or a defensive shortstop that isn't going to hit as well as he used to. Or is it, he's dealing with something right now that, isn't publicly available, and we're not sure whether we can really count on him in August and September. And those are the sort of things, or, other things like, how's Bailey Ober going to be doing when he starts for the Saints on Saturday? How's Luke Keeschel going to be looking at AAA? Like, these are all the things that they're going to have to be taking a look at in what is a small sample size over the next 12 games before they get to July 31st, an off day, by the way, which they have. And that's the trade deadline day.
Now, could you be uber optimistic? I was joking earlier about Alec. It's the nature of this time slot, John. The first season that Correa was here, he kind of had, by his standards, a disastrous first half.
Yep.
Then he hit like a freaking league MVP the second half of that season.
Yep.
Maybe that's what we're looking at from. Why can't we see that from Carlos? Let's go, Carlos.
Yeah, we've. He has.
See, you're hesitant to do it, and you're an uber positive guy, and even you are a little bit like.
I mean, he has started slow pretty much every year with the Twins. But we also said that
we tried to blame it on the weather, didn't we? We tried to blame. It's like it's a little chilly in Minnesota
for whatever reason. I mean, he also. We should just mention he didn't look good in spring training either. Like it has been, but he looked good at the end of last season.
Yeah, he did.
So is this he was working on something in the offseason that hasn't worked out. His swing is he's talked a little bit about his swing being messed up. You're always worried, just given his injury history over the last 2 years. Certainly that has affected his performance in 2024 and in 2023. Different feet, but, same injury.
Sure.
And, you're sitting there reading tea leaves every time he runs to first base. Oh, is he running as fast as he should be? I wonder, but he seems to be playing defense, I think, fairly well, although I've seen recently some metrics that suggest maybe he's slipped a little bit there. I think they know better than we know what he is battling or not battling health-wise. But, maybe they've got some insight on whether or not they think they can count on him in August and September to really provide this offensive boost.
I don't know why you would do this, because it's torturous. But when you mentioned Lopez,
well, I do a podcast of the Twins, Nordo. So
yes, standard fare. You and Gleeman dig into this all the time. I bet.
Yeah, we might be a little bit masochistic. There might be some tendencies there. Sure.
So, but to be that way, whether you mentioned Lopez and Tyler Mahle, and I don't know what's happened with Lopez, but Mahle's been very, very good now since his tenure with the Twins, are pretty good. Maybe it's fallen off.
I think he was injured again recently.
Oh, well, okay. So I was watching the All-Star game, and I saw Brent Rooker.
Yeah.
And again, this is not something that I'm daggering the Twins organization on because of how it went. But you go backwards. The guy on the mound tonight, Chris Paddock, is part of this.
Yeah, that's right.
2021-ish, something like that.
He was in that trade.
You trade Rooker and Taylor Rogers down to SoCal, the Padres. You get Paddock and you get Emilio Pagan in return. Now, Paddock, hang on for your life at times. He'll get you through 5, and then better luck next time. You take him out, maybe even if you got a nice lead going. But Brent Rooker went from a guy that, he couldn't sniff a hit at the plate. Yeah. Then he goes to, I think it was the Royals. He was actually worse than his short tenure with the Padres. Just hideous. Yep. You mentioned like $175. He would have dreamed of hitting $175 with the Royals. Right. Then he goes to the Athletics, probably picked him up for a bag of groceries and $5 off the waiver wire. Right. And now he's a 2-time All-Star. Right. You kind of go, and again, you can torture yourself with time and development, what we needed of him in the moment at that stage of his career, very young at the time and now more seasoned. But wow, is he rocking? For a destitute franchise, albeit. Yep. But Rooker is just killing it. And at one point, he was wearing our colors. Yeah, this is, I think... Sometimes stuff isn't ripe. Sometimes things ripen after you have gotten rid of them. Bananas were too green.
Brent Rooker's breakout year happened when he was 28. And that's a long time to stick with a prospect.
Yes, it is.
By the time they are 28 years old. And, unfortunately, for various reasons, they had to add him to the 40-man roster. You only have so many years where he has options. When the Twins traded him away, they traded him away because it was either trade him away or lose him. Right. Or put him on a roster where he wasn't going to play. You put him on the 25-man roster, but you don't really have room for him, right? That's why...
And based on extensive need, by the way. There's a reason we identified both Paddock and Pagan at that time. Pagan, he had his moments in the pen, but certainly...
you'll remember that trade happened the night before opening day. That was the night before opening day trade. Right? Yeah, and we traded away our closer. And my theory on the timing of this is that the Twins went looking for a trade partner for Brent Rooker, knowing they could be saying, listen, we can't put this guy in our roster. Yep. We'll send out an email. We just had Thad Levine on the podcast where he talked about when you're going to lose somebody, you literally send a notice or an email to 29 teams saying, we can't put this guy in our roster. He's going to go to somebody. Are you interested? And if so, let's talk and offer. And my guess is the Padres came back to them and said, we'd have some interest in Rooker. And then the deal got bigger and suddenly.
Well, and they were able to, you mentioned, having to find a partner with inverse needs. Right. They needed probably to do the same thing with Paddock, right? Paddock had been returning from rehabbing Tommy John, I believe. Right. Yeah. And so they were in a spot where it's like, man, if we can get rid of this guy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Padres probably had Paddock as 6th on their depth chart or something like that in terms of their rotation. So it might very well be that was how things started. We didn't actually ask Thad specifically about that trade. I wish I would have. Because we did get him to talk a little bit about the Joe Ryan trade. We did get him to talk a little bit about the Tyler Mahle, Jorge Lopez trade, about some other trades as well. It was very interesting to hear some of the behind-the-scenes developments that had happened there. But, the bottom line was that happens to the Twins also have been the recipient of such things. The example is Willie Castro. Yeah. Willie Castro is somebody who ran out of time with the Tigers. He got to the point where they'd called him up. He'd gotten his 3 years of service time. He was going to need to be arbitration eligible. They were like, we don't really see this guy as anything more than a utility player, or maybe not even that. We've got other options. They made him a free agent. The Twins went after him hard, signed him to a minor league contract. And then that spring training, Rocco Baldelli kept talking about how much he was enjoying Willie Castro on there. And sure enough, he made it onto the 25-man roster. And we're all like, well, we'll see how long he really lasts, or when he goes back to St. Paul. They've got, they got some guys coming back from injuries. He kept sticking around. He kept finding a role.
I'm pretty sure he played almost every game last year.
Yeah, exactly right. That year he surprised us with how many games he played. The next year he ended up being the team's MVP, last year.
Yep.
And then ended up, and this year he's maybe arguably having an even better year than last year when he was an all-star. So
he would have been.
That stuff does happen to teams.
Yeah, and good. So good things happen to us too once in a while. And Willie Castro is not going to hit the top headline for everybody. But I will say, I'm kind of reminded now. I'm thinking more about Willie. Willie was the answer and the replacement for Michael A. Taylor a few years ago. Remember how important Michael A. Taylor was at times, given, Buxton's injury situation and such. Willie kind of became that utility guy that could step in spots.
Yeah, that's right. Michael A. Taylor, because officially the replacement for Michael A. Taylor was, who was the outfielder that they acquired during spring training? I'm blanking.
Well, I'm not going to be any help for the bonus, okay?
The guy who went 0 for 30 with 0 for 30 as a pinch hitter.
Yeah, he was just awful.
Right, yeah. And so he was officially and then his replacement, by the way, is Harrison Bader, who's been fantastic.
Who's been really good.
Who's been fantastic, so much so that even with Buxton healthy, you'll remember Taylor ended up playing at full-time center field.
Yes.
Even though he was supposed to be sort of a backup center fielder,
that was when they made their playoff run with the fell to the Astros.
Part-time left fielder, and that's I think what Bader's role was supposed to be. And Buck's has been so healthy, and Bader has been so exceptional defensively in left field, and as well as hit so much better than we expected him to hit, that he's now just become the full-time left fielder, basically.
So let me ask you, I want to ask you this really dumb question, and then we're going to pause, and I want to hit a couple more baseball topics with you, and then we're going to enjoy our Fridays.
Let's do that.
So Joe Ryan, you mentioned Joe Ryan, comes to the Minnesota Twins, and sadly was having a terrific year last year before the same injury that Pablo Lopez has sustained. But now he's healthy.
Yes.
And he's playing really well. So fun to see him throw a perfect, correct. Damn it, Eric. You idiot, Eric.
He was healthy through middle of August last year.
Yeah. I apologize to all Twins fans right now. But so he's on a 1-year, $3 million deal. And I'm eternally confused when it comes to, you mentioned it, arbitration eligibility for a Willie Castro. Well, I think as he's 29, I think he's entering that spot. Like he's in that arbitration, next year.
This was his first year of arbitration. So he's got 2 years of arbitration left.
So then maybe this is dumb. Is Joe Ryan, when healthy, is he a $30 million pitcher? I mean, is he
$30 million a year?
Yeah. I mean, is he potentially a high end, or maybe 30 is the wrong number, but is he a potential?
Yeah. I mean,
high end starter that any team would love to have on their squad.
If Joe Ryan, let's see. He is how old?
29 right now.
29 right now. If Joe Ryan was a free agent this year and he continues to hold up throughout the rest of the year. So let's put that out there. Like he ends this season with about the ERA that he is posting right now.
Perfect. Yeah.
He's getting at least 5 years, $100 million.
Yeah.
Right. And could he be getting, money in excess of that? Could he be closer to $25 million? Probably. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if he got, 5, 120, 5, 110, something like that. That's as much as people.
He's just been so good when he's healthy.
Right.
And I just think about in the context of, because as soon as we started talking about Carlos, it's start banging trash cans and he'll start hitting. This is what happens when we go all in, right? We ask the team to put their money where their mouth is, and we get Carlos Correa and plantar fascia, and we're getting back maintenance and all of that. Right. But I'm just thinking to myself, like with Joe, when he's healthy, and it stinks with this team, health, this guy is kind of a $25 million guy. Yeah, and we're paying $3 million for him.
And the truth is in terms of like purely, wins above replacement, where each win above replacement is probably worth $8 to $9 to $10 million. He's already a 4 WAR. Ooh. So that puts him at a $30 million valuation so far. He's been worth $30 million on the free agent market, and he's young enough that he could probably get a 4 or 5, maybe 6.
Well, Falvey's hoping his agent isn't listening. But I don't know how
Falvey loves it because Falvey owns it for 2 more years.
Oh, that's a great spot.
He's got him underneath team control. Now he's going to have to pay him.
He's got to keep a guy happy, right?
My guess is, there's going to be arbitration awards. So I bet you next year arbitration he makes $7 million.
Okay.
And the year after that, maybe 12 or 13 million. Like, one of the things that the Twins are going to have to deal with. So he's going to be able to
feed his family.
Yeah.
He'll be okay.
He and Latrell are going to be all right. That's one of the things the Twins are going to have to deal with here in the next couple years. We've talked a lot about payroll. This team starts getting expensive because so many of their guys are arbitration eligible and are going to be due for big raises. Those guys who are 2 years out are Duran and Jax and Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober. Pablo Lopez is now already making $20-some million a year. Royce Lewis is already, I think, in his first year of arbitration. Now, he's not helping his cause right now. Jeffers is going into his last year of arbitration. He's going to be getting a significant raise. So you've got a lot of guys there that are going to be getting significant raises you would be stupid to not offer them arbitration.
Right.
Before you would ever not offer them arbitration, you would trade them away because, and for somebody cheaper if you have to.
Which puts
right. But
Duran and Jackson into that conversation.
That is another factor with why they might be considered, potential trade options.
Man. Okay. Well, at least, they got ownership's totally locked up. Everything's so as they make these big decisions, everything's just ducks in a row. Yeah. I'm going to pause. Brett's going to give away a chance to make some money and a few more Twins talkers for you, Mr. Bonus. It is John Bonus in studio, the Twins Geek at Twins Geek via X, Twins Daily, Zone Coverage. Brewers Fanatic, Northside Sports.
Leaving the Geek podcast right now,
talking
baby.
Sox. Yep. There's something Sox.
Is there a Braves one yet?
No Braves one, but we were talking about it. You'll be happy to hear. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There we go.
Could be a side gig for me.
Let's pause and let's chat and have some fun with Bonus around the corner. But first,
the fan at BigDeck.com wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks of the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com, enter the keyword bonus. Funny enough, the keyword is bonus, not the way you spell it, John. Bonus, BONUS, keyword bonus. KFAN.com, keyword bonus.
Fan.
John Bonus in studio for another handful, 6, 7, 8 minutes here, 9 to noon. Nordo in for PA. We're at Coors Field, Mr. Bonus. It's a bad team, but it appears to be a destination. However, as I saw this, an average of more than 10 total runs are scored. This is over their last 12 home games. So, and Paddock's on the mound, so he's good for a couple. These do not feel these don't feel like 2-1 games coming our way this weekend, right? So if there's a spot, and I know we got to go. I think we're at the Dodgers on Monday, I believe.
Yeah, they get to face the worst team in that, maybe one of the worst teams of all time, the Colorado Rockies, and then they go to face the best team, the world champion Dodgers, immediately after, which means, how much you're. I don't know how much you're going to be able to tell from either of those two series by how the Twins play, given the extremes of those folks. I will just mention on twinsdaily.com, if you go out there, it's probably scroll down a little bit because I think it was published yesterday. I've got something on the five tips for visiting Coors Field. We visited Coors Field on in May for a series, and I got to tell you, my anecdotal evidence suggests to me that if you are one of the Twins fans going to Coors Field to watch, if this is the road trip you picked to go watch them, you're going to get lots and lots of company with you, because I think I would not be surprised if the majority of that stadium is Twins fans.
That's sweet, though.
This year.
And so one tip, can you give us a teaser of one tip of truly enjoying Coors Field?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the thing to do at Coors Field is the pregame. So Coors Field opens up their gates 2 hours early. And the primary feature of Coors Field is their upper deck in right field, stretching all the way from the foul pole into center field, is a double deck bar, kind of like the gray deck bar over at Twins Daily, or Twins Daily, at Target Field. It is enormous. It is 5-6 sections long. And pregame, prior to first pitch, if you get in there 2 hours early, and for those 2 hours until first pitch, Coors Lights and Coors Drafts are $3 at the ballpark. Okay. As you're overlooking the field, you're overlooking the mountains, you're overlooking downtown Denver. It is fantastic.
I've made a lot of changes to my my habits and responsibilities over the last decade, John.
Yeah, that's
$3 Coors at Coors Field.
Yeah.
Double-decker bar.
Yeah.
2 hours before the first pitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's worth the trip almost all by itself.
Are you freaking kidding me with that? Well, you're going to need a couple extra Coors at Coors Field
if you're pitching. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, correct. And hopefully they're sending coolers down to the bullpen throughout. Now, whether it's Joe Ryan's been terrific, Buxton's been terrific. We know that. It'll be interesting to see how Rocco handles. You mentioned the spectrum, that they're this broad spectrum right out of the gates. I don't know when Ryan's going to go. Probably Saturday or Sunday, right?
Well,
or could you try to hold him on even with the All-Star break? Could you hold him to L.A.?
Yeah. So interestingly, they haven't announced their probable pitchers as of an hour ago, at least.
I am right that it's Paddock tonight, though, right?
Yeah,
okay.
But Dan Hayes reported it's Paddock tonight. I wouldn't be shocked. We talked a little bit. It looks like maybe Zebby Matthews might be coming back from his injury stint.
Oh, sweet.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
As to what that means and I wouldn't be shocked if they let Joe Ryan have a couple of extra days and end up maybe Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or like you said with the Dodgers, just because he also was in the All-Star game. They want to give him a break. They certainly are aware of his injury history. They want to make sure that, he's going into the second half as rested as he can be. And then you've got, Bailey Ober also starting, I think, this weekend, maybe tomorrow.
You mentioned maybe Saturday.
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe tomorrow. The Saints are on the road Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then they're home Tuesday and so, depending on what we see from Bailey Ober on Saturday, does he make one rehab start? Does he make two rehab starts? How effective is he? And also, how well does he bounce back? He's been fighting this hip problem, and it doesn't sound like, once it gets well, he's pitching well. The question is how about the next time out? Does he get enough rest? Can he maintain it? And so, I think a lot of, what they are judging is stuff that we're not even going to be privy to, which is 3 days later, how's the hip? How's the hip, Bailey? So, they could potentially be facing sort of a roster crunch in their rotation if Ober comes back here fairly soon. Or on the other end, maybe Ober ends up just doing rehab up until the trade deadline, and maybe they're thinking by the trade deadline we're going to know whether or not Chris Paddock, who's an impending free agent, is ending up being shipped someplace else. And that also might be one of the reasons why Paddock is the first guy out of the break. That gives him 3 starts before the trade deadline to kind of showcase himself.
Oh, there we go. I can't remember. Maybe it was Dan Hayes either talking about it with him or he wrote about it. Kind of the idea that based on how things looked like they could line up, we might be at Chavez Ravine doing like a bullpen opener type of situation.
Yeah.
Maybe that's impacted, though. You mentioned it. And overall, then, it kind of feels like we could, for better or worse, again, 6 teams are within 4.5 games of the wild card right now.
Right.
This is a rat race. It's a complete bottleneck.
Yep.
But our team is one of them. So if we're rooting for our team to win games, they're in it right now. They got a shot. They got a chance.
Yeah, I think the bullpen opener stuff is going to be put off a little bit now that Zebby Matthews is back.
I don't want to do that at the Dodgers.
My best guess is that Zebby Matthews is going to replace Travis Adams on the roster, who's been being used in that way as sort of a 4-inning guy, innings 2 through 5 or 3 through 6.
Yeah, and I dig that. Speaking of innings, but I guess just to finish that other thought, it feels like we're getting healthier. I mean, Pablo's still obviously. I mean, we're waiting on that. That's going to be another 6-8 weeks probably. But
I wouldn't be shocked if middle of August we hear something. One way or the other. Now that something might
That's
be
the
he's doing some rehab starts or something like that. But the initial thing on him was we're going to shut him down for 4 weeks and then we'll see where he's at. And he was certainly doing some throwing in the last homestand, so he's done some sort of throwing program already. So.
Can Simeon pitch 6? Can we just give him the 6th inning once in a while?
Yeah, he can. This is an interesting. I'm starting to wonder what the fascination is of having starting pitchers when you've got a bullpen that is 5 deep with high leverage starters, and you've got a rotation where they struggle after they get through the lineup 2 times in a row. What's the smartest way to deploy that pitching staff?
That's fair. Right? It's a rube thought that I had. You're making me feel dumb now, but that's okay.
But here's the thing. We actually had a little bit of a discussion about this with Rocco because I asked him straight up in the pregame, are you managing more aggressively than you have in the past, by mid-year? He can manage pretty aggressively in August and September when he's in a pennant race. And my thought process was are you managing more aggressively right now in part because you're already in a pennant race. Like you are fighting for the wild card spot right now. You're trying to get out of a slump of, losing 9 out of 11 series, all this other thing. His reaction was, I thought, he's a thoughtful guy. And his point was, I'm probably, you can call it that. You can call it managing aggressively. But really what managing aggressively, you can manage aggressively, but also stupidly. For instance, managing aggressively doesn't mean that I want, Ty France stealing a base. Yeah. It means I've got to take a look at my roster and based on overcome my expectations on what that roster was at the beginning of the season and deal with the roster that I've got.
So is aggressive proactive in some cases?
So I would suggest that what he's doing, being proactive and aggressive, is he's taking a look at I've got a rotation that's kind of beat up right now. I've got a lot of youngsters that we don't trust to go through the lineup more than twice, and probably validly so. Yeah. I've got a really good bullpen though, and I've got an offense that's struggling to score runs. Well, what do? Well, you start playing. You don't sit and wait for the 3-run home run. You start having, by the way, my lineup also is not very fast, except for about 3 guys. Right? Well, what do? Well, Buxton's stealing a lot more. Bader's stealing a lot more. Deshaun Kersey coming in as a pinch runner to steal occasionally. Willie Castro, in the last homestand, all of those guys stole bases. Right? You start playing for 1 run. You start doing a squeeze bunt in the 9th inning to end up a walk-off squeeze bunt. You start sending guys from second to home and trust that they slide at home, because you know what you're doing? You're trying to get a 1-run lead in the 6th, because then you can turn it over to the bullpen. Yeah. And I think part of that is don't stick with the starter until they blow the 3-4 lead. And now it's 4-5, right? Because then your high-end arms don't do you a lot of good to protect a 1-run loss.
And you're sweating an offense that has underperformed, trying to chase a run or two in the late stages of games.
And so, I do think he's managing, I would say, differently than he has in this way. He can't, but I think what he's doing really is reflecting the reality that this team is. And the reality, and I think maybe it's maybe more apparent to him than it is to the fan base what the reality of this team is. This team is not Pablo Lopez and Bailey Ober going 7 anymore. They don't have those guys going 7. They got Joe Ryan they count on going 7. And other than that, they've got Festa and Simeon Woods Richardson and a bunch of guys and Paddock. Right. And Travis Adams, at some point you got to start playing the cards that you're dealt. And that might mean, maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing. It's not Jack Morris and Tapani and Scott Erickson on the mound anymore.
No, it is not. It is not. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me today, man. We got through a couple of long segments without even bringing up the weird ownership bit that persists.
Or the Major League Baseball draft that happened this week.
Or the Major League Baseball draft.
That's right.
Part of that, to be honest, from the draft standpoint, I don't know these guys. The Oregon kid that's like 12 feet tall, kind of intrigued by him. That's going
to be really fun, yeah.
We got Merrick, I think, was our first-round pick, future shortstop, unless we can get going with Carlos here. You're the absolute best, man. I just truly appreciate you spending time. Yep. It's John Bonus, and again, at Twins Geek via X. But whether it's his zone coverage properties, the numerous websites you can go to ingest your favorite teams, just go to Twins Geek via X, Twins Daily, again, zone coverage, and so much more content that Bonus is bringing to you. The Rube. Final segment, Nor to Win for PA, is next. Putting a wrap on things here 9 to noon on a week. Thanks so much to not only John Bonus, but Alec Lewis for hanging out in the studio. Vocal maintenance days persisting for the host as we try to put the construction of the dream together again. Vikings training camp for us really lifts off on Wednesday at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. We'll be there. But just pumped the chat with you throughout the course of this week. Thank you so much, Brett. And Brett Blakemore produces. I'm Nordo for PA. I hope all of you have a tremendous weekend, but always keep it here on The Fan. The Grum is next. See you later.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.